I'll start recording as well. Awesome. How are you guys?
Yeah, good, Joey. How are you?
Hanging in there.
Thanks.
Uh,
Not bad.
yeah.
I'm
No,
just getting over a cold. Just getting over a cold, Joey. So
same. Like I think it's allergies. It's I when as soon as the seasons change, it's cold out. Suddenly you can't breathe for a day or two. It's wonderful. Great being alive. It's so much easier to be animated, or I was thinking about this last night. I watched a little bit of it again just to refresh my memory, and it's such a rewarding process what you guys do. Clearly, in terms of how much it's been appreciated over the years, but you know, most animated, the tech of it changes so much, and I think it's such an interesting thing to see how Wallace and Gromit always look the same. And I'm sure there are differences over the years, but it still has like a real handcrafted mom and pop. I go to the corner store and spend more money because I want to support those guys feel. And how hard is it to avoid I'm sure there are things that make it so much easier. There's so many ways you could make it easy these days. On like, how do you resist that temptation?
Gosh.
um,
Well,
yeah,
I
Hard,
mean,
I know.
I know. I tell you what, though, it does stay the same. It's very much on purpose,
Yeah,
really, to
yeah,
maintain that feeling. And Joe, you hit the nail right on the head. Is that it is the fact that it's handmade,
yeah,
and it is the fact that it's handcrafted. And you're right, it has evolved over the years. If you watch the early Wallace and Gromits, as Nick and the studio got better and better,
yeah,
and production values sort of could improve, then so did the look of the film subtly,
yeah,
but the heart and soul
yeah.
of it is still the same.
And we try not to get it too slick,
yeah,
you know, because it's otherwise we might as well be doing CGI.
yeah. No,
It's
Um,
it's
but on
as much
the flip side, we
the
do
heart
use
and
the
soul.
latest in production technology. There's the latest visual effects, latest post production. We use a lot of sort of material technology behind the scenes, like silicones and resins, for building the sets and the props, which
no,
maybe don't look like it on the surface, but I mean, I'm not saying what we do is speedy fast. No, not, not in the slightest. But it's sped up incrementally, and so we are a little faster at making these productions than sort of 15, 20 years ago.
oh yeah. It
Yeah,
would.
um, and we've got different kind of what's the word? What it's not tech. I'll whatever the word is. Sorry, I can't think of what the word is. When it's not high tech.
Yeah. Well, the tools change. You can,
Yeah, yeah. But also, even within our stop motion method, handmade method, we've come across lots of little things that make life a little bit easier.
yeah.
Like, the lip sync takes a long time. So, very early on, we developed this mouth replacement system,
Mhm.
which just makes it where the animator has all the set of different syllables, all the different mouth shapes ready before starting a shot.
I think what you guys said really hammers home that like the it shouldn't look too good. Like it needs to look like a person did it, right? It needs to look
Yeah,
like it
yeah,
started and was handcrafted. And simplicity, I think, obviously early on is necessity, right? If you get too complicated, what are we doing? We're spending so much time on this. We're never moving forward. But simplicity does pay off in certain aspects. Like, the charm of Feathers McGraw is how simple that character looks. It's the
mm,
how terrifying he's presented, yet how simple he looks, right? That doesn't work if it's this very done together piece. The fact that it's looks like the easiest character to work with.
that's right. The flip side of that is that he's not.
Yeah.
Because he's so simple, there is nowhere to hide. So everything you do with him has a reason, and when he moves, you see it. And so you have he's actually Feathers is the hardest character of all in this cast to get absolutely right.
Hmm. The most rewarding, I would
Yes.
It is
Yeah.
very, yeah. Yeah, it's rewarding because, like, when you're script writing and storyboarding for years beforehand, you think of jokes, 4 years ago, and it's very gratifying to not just seeing it eventually played out and for oneself, but when you see it with an audience, it's you suddenly that feedback is incredible. That something you thought of 4 years ago.
Well, Nick, the career you've had of people responding to what you do, I'm sure makes it feel like I can play. Like, okay, if I have a flight of fancy, I can trust that like people will whatever the thing I found funny, in my bed 6 years ago before I wrote it down, someone else is gonna find funny. But I imagine somewhere in the back of your mind, you have to also go, well, if I write that down and it's funny, we then have to go sit with Merlin and all these other people. We have to figure out how to do it afterwards. It's not just that it's funny. We have to make it look right in this. So it is such a it's maybe I think in the sphere of animation this and stop motion like the hardest script to write because you have to kind of keep that in mind, but you also can't because you have to tell the story that'll excite you.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's kind of incredible that it works the way it does.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've got it spot on. Yeah, I
But,
mean that's
and
yeah.
then, well, no, it's true. And then
Like,
like, go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, no. I was just picking up on something Merlin's. It's kind of this, and you said yourself, it's deceivingly simple, I think, as well. And obviously, we try to keep things smooth, and just the way the shapes have evolved as well is it's all around your thumbs and how accessible it all is. Like if you had a, an old person, with a very wrinkly face, for example, with everything moving, that'd be really difficult. So things are designed in a way so that they are animatable.
yeah. Well, Merlin, how exciting is it when you read it slash, oh no, this sounds real hard. Like if you're reading, like there's 50 old people in this scene. Oh God. Like how
Yeah.
do you balance that?
Well, it's both alarming and exciting all at the same time. I remember years ago when we were making Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit, and Nick and Steve Box, who were directing at the time, came in and said, "We want the Were-Rabbit to be furry."
Yeah.
And like fur and stop motion animation are just they're not good bedfellows. And so and then again on this film when we were pitching the idea of Act Three with loads of water in it, like we were, oh God, stop motion and water, no, that doesn't work. But there's a challenge to be had there,
Yeah.
which is sumptuous. It's um with this film we've always tried to create it in front of the camera for real if we can. Water in this instance, you can only go so far with cling film and wax, and we have some of the water in this film is where it's tea or just little strips of water, but that big Act Three thing, we had to lean into CG, and that's a really great example where the flex of Aardman is big enough to absorb that and for us to tell our story properly. So we can do the most exquisitely crafted, you know, stop motion storytelling, but also if we need it, we can really lean into the latest in water sim tech, kind of from the post production side, and make it feel appropriate to the stop motion world. It's not just like live action water dropped in. We really had to stylize it quite heavily to make it sort of just be there and not take your eye.
It's the discipline, I think, of being able to go, we can use this, but we're not gonna just use it. We're not gonna use it whenever we run into a wall. It's a real, last ditch is the wrong word, but like you said, we've gone as far as I think anyone can with this, at least for now. This
Mm.
right here, and if we use it in just the right way, some people might not notice. Some people who notice will appreciate it. The amount of people we're gonna we no one's gonna feel betrayed, and I think the fact that that's even a thought process is kind of awesome. That even the worry that there's someone who'll be like, "How dare you?" It's annoying,
Yeah,
but it's also like kind of sweet that someone wants. There's such a value in what you guys do and what Aardman has done for so long that it's protective in a way.
yeah, that's right. And it kind of loops back to your first quest, your first point, which is just making sure that what Nick established with
Yeah.
all the other Wallace and Gromit films is is not trodden on, but actually is embraced, and if we can, to enhance it for this film. And that's been certainly for me joining Nick in directing on this film. That's been kind of forefront of my mind. I don't know. We spoke about it at length, didn't we, Nick? Just about
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's always yeah,
just very important.
yeah. Like you say, even when we do use, in a way, we like using digital effects the way everyone uses digital effects, for stuff we can't do with clay, as Merlin said. But it's part of the clay is something we want to cling on to. We don't apologize for the fingerprints. It's part of the DNA of everything. The everything being handcrafted, and but there's a humor that comes out of it because you're limited with what you can do, and it's so we love limits are a good thing for any artist.
And I think the speed, like the fact that, they're not long movies, but they manage their time, but it never feels like there's nothing going on. It never feels like it's not telling a full story. It's such a sleek in a weird way. It's narratively sleek because, a movie that's 70 something minutes, it almost always feels rushed. Like, oh, there was a mandate to get to that, as opposed to, to some degree, we're only so many human beings. We can only make this for so long, but there's something elegant about we can also take our time. No one feels like they're rushing. And I think the end result, besides being just great films, is you can watch them in any order. And it doesn't matter. I think you could watch this as the first one and then go backwards, and you would never feel like the technology is devolving. And there's something about that. I mean, listen, everyone does. You do animation long enough, it changes. Steamboat Willie is not what Moana looks like, and it's not meant to. But you can lose people. I think sometimes, like, it's harder to get a young kid to watch the animation you grew up on because it's aimed at a different attention span. But I think there's something about Wallace and Gromit that they are always stuck, like, not in time, but in this like kind of amorphous time where it works for everyone and it works a different way for everyone. And that's sort of impossible to replicate. And the fact that you continue to be able to do it and can have other people join you and continue to do it is sort of one of a kind. It's why they're standing the test of time.
Wow. It's great to hear. It's great to hear your appreciation of it, Joe.
I can imagine working, the midst of the shoot. You're not thinking about that. You're thinking about, we've made no progress. This is a pain in the ass. Knowing that eventually we have in our head will be in clay, will then be on a screen one day, will then be in someone's imagination. Like, it is a weirdly like responsibility situation of like, I know I can do this, so I have to do this.
Yeah.
So I'm still stuck with trying to see Moana in the style of Steamboat Willie.
I'm interested. It would be rough, but I've listened to them talk about Disney and Pixar and stuff about what it takes to do water these days, and just the idea of we have this many hundreds and thousands of computers working on rendering the effects, let alone, well, how many hands do we have to start making it like look like it's rippling? There's no right or wrong, but it is insane to think about how different animation has become by virtue of it used to be someone with a hand, right? You had to have a hand who could draw something. Do it. Yeah. And there's but it is insane just watching how they can do it, and it's kind of beautiful, but also the fact that there's still space for this is even more beautiful to me. So you guys should just be proud of it.
That's great. It's amazing how much interest has been how there's been a resurgence of interest in this technique. You're back in 2000-ish, when Pixar made Toy Story, in the late 90s, I think it was. We were thinking, oh my goodness, how much time do we have left? This is the way forward, CGI, which is obviously it has gone forward in many great ways. And Toy Story was a great movie in itself. But we found that as long as you tell a great story and with compelling and funny characters, then we can also compete out there as well in our own way.
Yeah. And you can't resist the urge to not. A big CGI film can, and we've seen, not do that. So we have technology can be about that, and it becomes hollow. And I think, one, the clay characters can't be hollow, but also, why would you sit there painstakingly doing any of it if it didn't have a story worth telling or a story
absolutely
telling? So I think the fact that you're able to do it, can continue to do it, and that can have collaborators doing it's amazing, and I can't wait. Just thing that it's exhausting, I know, to hear. Do more now, but
give us a minute.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally. They're timeless characters, and they should be. So I just love that they are.
Right. Thank you. Right.
My pleasure.
It's a wonderful compliment. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Thank you guys for doing this, and thank you guys for having the ability to continue doing what you're doing. It's just it makes, there's room for all of it, and there should be room for all of it. And the fact that it's so good makes it a no-brainer. I'm thrilled that other people realize that too.
Oh, thanks, Joe. Means a lot.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. Nice talking to you. Thank you.
you.